Oh Lord, we got everybody playing the victim once again. Lovely. I thought I had it set to 1-3, but if it was set at 1, then I might have to remake this whole thing. So, let's see what happens. Don't matter to me. And honestly, I was going to make like a video out of it and just do it separately, but there's nothing I like better than seeing a bunch of people acting like they're fucking victims, you know? It's like two sides are provoking each other and then constantly over and over and over and over and over again. It just seemed like most of the people in this entire community, at least creator wise, seem to rely on fucking chaos and drama, or they just way too much seem to enjoy it. That includes myself, by the way. I'm not claiming to be fucking innocent of anything in its own time. I've had my own run-ins in the past and stuff like that when I just did whatever the hell I wanted to for the shits and giggles. So. But at the same time, you'll never hear me running around going, "Oh, woe is me! I don't know why they're doing these horrible things to me." No. Most of the time, if I know why a person is attacking me, I literally know why a person is attacking me. So I probably provoked them in some sort of way, obviously. I was going to do a different kind of live tonight, which I'm not even going to be sure if I'm going to actually do this one either. It all depends on people showing up or not. It don't bother me either way it goes, but yeah. I just got the news earlier that another friend of mine, Christian, who oddly enough got deported back to the Honduras because he got caught shoplifting, and I guess he had some bad history with the people there or whatever because they murdered him. And he's dead now. And it just reminded me of a whole bunch of people that either, basically all the people that I've known or been related to and all this other stuff that were just like murdered by other people for no reason at all, really. Or at least very dumbass reasons, if you ask me. But, so I figured I'd give everybody a heads up on it. But at the same time, I was hoping to have the computer out by now. Go ahead and show the security footage and everything else from some of these stories or whatnot. Because I have saved the Circle K footage that shows the station wagon and all that when I was a kid. I was allowed to have that, so even though it was never used for anything, I was allowed to have that. I also have the security footage from Back Bay when I worked there, and yeah, like I said, I've had a lot of crazy run-ins, and it's like some weird force keeps making me not get murdered, I guess is the best way to put it. And it's not funny because it's like, every time somebody cheats death, somebody else has to pay the price, if you didn't know. Because every single time I made it away and didn't get killed by somebody else died in my place. First it was John, my cousin, and then it was the guy I went to high school with, Muhammad. And there's been a couple other situations and stuff where at least I can't say blame myself as far as those go too much, but yeah. I did a total of like about the top of my head of how many people I've known, and cared about, and I mean like close like family. You know what I'm saying? Never murdered since I was born. It's probably been like I was able to get to 16. And that's not including the overdoses, the weird deaths, the natural deaths, or the suicides. It's just, like I said, I've always been walking the thin line with death and stuff. So, yeah. So since I can barely remember, I've been doing things like checking out true crime and all this other stuff. And yeah. So that's what I fully intended to talk about tonight. But just now I was watching this live on Cryptix's channel or whatever. And I don't know. I should probably just stay the fuck out of that too. It's just, yeah, I wouldn't buy into it on either side because, yeah, it's guaranteed that both sides aren't telling what really happened, this and that and the other, or they're downplaying it or whatever else. So, yeah, they could just stop arguing and stuff by just stop responding or mentioning the other side and this, that, and the other. And they just don't. So, yeah. There ain't nobody that's a victim in that situation, because I was in the same exact situation as that female creator, which if you were watching Cryptix today at some point, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, I was in the same situation. I got letters in the mail. I got cards hoping for my death in the mail and stuff like that, amongst other things. And it's just hilarious how, yeah, at some point I just stopped responding to it. I stopped checking their channels. I stopped, I just ignored it. And I, didn't let it bother me anymore. And yeah, I'll be the first one to tell you that most of them will just eventually get bored and they'll move on. It's almost like a 50 Cent thing back when he was doing those rap battles and shit like that, because he was starting all these fake beefs with people and other rappers just to plain out and simple, like, get drama going, because drama makes money and drama sells. Well, it's like, some of these people, like, thrive on chaos, which, once again, I don't want to seem like a hypocrite. At one point in time, I was also probably just as bad as, if not even worse than, most of the people involved here. So, but yeah, I don't claim to be, but at some point, it got old, it got boring. I stopped doing it, period. I've even had one of those creators specifically tell me directly that they love chaos. They thrive on chaos. And it's probably not the one you're thinking of. And I remembered it at the time because I thought it was hilarious, the fact that that person would actually say that to me, of all people. But yeah, I don't know, I get it. I'm a pain in the ass. Ain't nobody gonna tell me no. I'm the bottom. I'm not a drama queen. I am the drama god. Okay, when I feel like getting into some shit, I get into some shit. So don't quote me here or try to make me seem like I'm making myself seem holier than thou or any shit like that, because I damn sure ain't. I mean, I think everybody knows by now, if I decide to get involved in some bullshit, it's like jump right in, all the way, boom. But hey, can you stop fucking him up? Hey, quit that shit. Annoying ass little Hitler stash brat. Sheesh. Sorry, the cats are, the girl cat's fucking up the guy cat because apparently that's what they do. I don't fucking know. I was gonna start this the thing about Flora tonight. Starting first with this Sybil trial and all that other stuff. Um, I'll probably just schedule that probably for tomorrow, and so that'll be. And then after that, I'll go through the suspects, and yeah, there's just a lot of stuff I want to go through with that and all that I feel needs to get out there, and I'm just tired of talking about the same damn case. And it's always funny that I hear from the one side, they're like, what are they arguing anyways? They've already won. They got what they want. No, I'm sorry. With the limited amount of evidence and everything else in that case against the person that's locked up right now, plus in the fact that he can actually afford his own lawyer and all this other stuff, did anybody think of doing the actual probabilities and stuff? Once you add on the fact that he can afford lawyers and testing and all this other shit, comparatively to a person with low means that doesn't have all those things, and then compare that to actually people that get appeals, you see a significantly drastic number change than this whole, oh, it's only 7%. No. If you're talking about the people that obviously did it, who've been applying for appeals for a million years, sure, yeah. But when you take it out in this exact situation and put it in context, but the fact that he has the means of defending himself and all kinds of other stuff, yeah. If anything, I would think that the state's people probably should start making their case a little bit better or something, because it wouldn't surprise me one bit, even though I myself think that he is indeed guilty. But at the same time, what I feel and what I see is two totally different things. And yeah, that's another thing people know the shit out of me with. Oh, you're jumping side. No, motherfucker. I'm going to the side where everybody thinks he's fucking innocent, because, if anybody's going to pay attention, what do I got to, do I need an echo chamber where I sit there and tell a bunch of people that think he's already guilty that he's guilty, so they can all nod at me and give me big smiles and we can clap for each other and stuff? No, I got to go right into the fucking mix of everything where everybody's fucking like, you're wrong, and then shut them down one by one by one by one by one. Yeah, that's definitely seems more like my style. But yeah. 5 people in here, nobody chatting. I'll just assume it's all trolls and stalkers and whatever. And people just being quiet. Well, since I don't have any enemies, I'll just, oh my god, fuck off, you annoying ass cat. Dude, I don't like you. I'm busy right now. I don't care. What do you want? I apologize, y'all. I have kittens, and they just, yeah, they basically do whatever the fuck they want. Listen, shithead, I only got you for content, okay? You're making yourself a little bit annoying. No, just kidding. But, oh man, I was just watching this thing about all these Portland things. I didn't know all this shit was going down in Portland and stuff too. Oh boy, that's gonna be kind of a, yeah. Let's take a situation like that and we'll toss necessary evil into the middle of it and see how well. I think I'm gonna end up making the situation much worse. But yeah, apparently, not anybody here or whatever, but I guess the Honduran gang or whatever that he used to either be in or rip off or whatever. I'm not going to say how he was found, because that's pretty fucked up. Word to the wise, don't fuck over the cartels. It's not going to lead to anything good. Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah. Well, really, I mean, I'm not entirely sure if I should go ahead and start telling these stories or not. Hell, I don't even know who the hell these people are in here. Well, I guess it doesn't really make a difference for me. And it's been a story I've been told thousands of times. So if anybody would have got off their lazy ass and looked into it by now, they would have noticed it's actually true. But okay. Yeah. When I was 15 years old, this was in 1996. I do believe it was September. Yeah, late September. We lived in North Fort Myers, Florida. We lived at a place where two roads, one called Old 41 and the other one's called New 41. They're almost the size of a highway. They meet up at some point right before it becomes Port Charlotte. And on the same side as where I lived at would be a place, it's like a motel called the Little Lantern Inn. And our house was right basically kind of behind it, but still really close to it. Down the road from there would be the shell factory in North Fort Myers here. If you know anything about Fort Myers or Lee County. But, well, I need to grab the charger too real quick. Come on, kitty love. And across the street was this really fancy trailer park, which is now called Island Vista Estates. But in reality, it's actually, it was called back then, it was called Sans Souci. I have no idea why it was called that, but whenever I used to hear people talking about Sans Souci, I'd be like, what the hell are you guys talking about? And then finally, at some point, I think when I was like almost 18, I ended up living there, so oddly enough, I figured out what it was. Well, I had a much older, some of my cousins, like Dolly and John and other ones, I'm not sure why I call them cousins or whatever, because they're technically my mom's cousins, but I think that means they're my cousins too. I'm not sure how the shit works, but like my mom has a cousin named Dolly. Dolly is like, she's like 60 something, almost 70 now, and yet she's supposed to be my cousin. So I'm not sure how that works, but when I was 15, John was 38. And he had substance abuse issues and stuff like that, and you know, had problems keeping jobs and all the other stuff that, you know, that comes along with it. And he was staying with his mom again, oddly enough. But he could be sometimes gone for days on end and stuff. And next to the trailer park, aka Sans Souci, where John and all them was kind of staying at, there's the Circle K. And really on that side, until you get down to a couple of churches or whatever, it's just this fucking Circle K. I think one way is like the churches, and the other way is the trailer park, and then where the roads meet, and then for like another half a mile or more, maybe even farther, you won't have no businesses or nothing on these main roads. But until you get to Del Prado Extension, then it's another gas station. I think they're building some shit there, and I think there's like a Publix there and stuff now, but back then there was like nothing. And well, around here, a lot of people will hang out at the popular fucking gas stations and stuff early in the AMs and stuff to try to get picked up to go do jobs, usually construction and stuff like that. You know, people will just drive up to these places, like how they talk about Home Depot and Lowe's and shit and other places. Yeah, it's the same way here, but they don't go to Home Depot and Lowe's to do it here. They do it at gas stations, usually predominantly in the ghetto. Fort Myers would be, well, right next to where all this was occurring at is a place called Suncoast. Now, uh, we have multiple ghettos in this county, and the white ghetto would be Suncoast. That would be where the rednecks lived at, and not your normal rednecks, not like the country folk, stuff like that. I'm talking about like the hillbilly, going smoking meth and making moonshine kind of motherfuckers. Back in the '90s, it was really bad because people they used to have a gang out there in Suncoast called Crooked R. I think the R was supposed to stand for redneck, and yeah, they would run around. They ruled Suncoast, and they would basically each part of Lee County was ran by certain fucking groups and stuff. Uh, and then the police would pretend like they had some sort of control, but that was in fact not even close to what was occurring. If you went to Suncoast and you weren't white, and you were seen walking around, it was just like how most people talk about the ghetto, but it's the exact opposite. You know what I mean? Like if you're living in a minority ghetto, they tell you don't be white and walking around at night, something bad's gonna happen. Well, in Suncoast, if you were a minority and walking around at some time of the night, something bad was gonna happen. I think the one night they stole these industrialized forklifts from a golf course and used them to go flipping cars and shit all over Suncoast of people they just didn't like. And literally, you could tell what happened in that because as you went down the road, you'd see like 7 or 8 cars flipped upside down in the ditch in front of the people's house. I shit you not. I mean, I guess it sucks in some way. I mean, it didn't happen to me. It happened to people I knew. But it was still funny as shit, though. I will admit. It was pretty funny. And I don't know. It's still all the same now. Although there's more ghetto-like areas here now, because Lehigh Acres used to be nothing back then. Just a place where some rednecks with some money fucking lived at. Not many had that, which has now turned into a city of like over 8 million people. Cape Coral was still small. I think it had less than 100,000 people in it, and now I think it's at like 12 million because it's right on the Gulf of whatever you want to call it. I've been yelled at lately for calling it the Gulf of Mexico. I think it was Paradox. He's like, it's the Gulf of America. I'm like, man, the map says Gulf of Mexico. I'm going to call it the Gulf of fucking Mexico. But, yeah, as I was saying, this day was like most every other day. I'm 15 years old. I'm probably over 6 feet. Yeah, I'm definitely over 6 feet tall at this point. Not by much, almost 6'1". I probably weighed over like 300 pounds for a little tiny fucking 15-year-old in age. You couldn't tell the difference between me and like a 21-year-old. Let's just put it that way. And I could go to that Circle K and other places like the liquor store and buy beer and cigarettes and all this other stuff. So I need to get some cigarettes and I need some cigars and whatnot, to smoke my weed. So I walked up to Circle K where I see that my cousin's sitting outside and I see that he's talking to this guy in a fucking station wagon. It's like a weird kind of blue station wagon too. It's like a pastel kind of blue. Like, it's weird to explain. And he saw me, he like gave me a head nod or whatever, and I was like, yo, what's up? And I dapped him up, and as I'm sitting there seeing what's up with him or whatever, this I don't know. You ever met somebody that gives you like creeper vibes because they got some Jeffrey Dahmer glasses? They're taller than you, and you're already fucking tall. But more so just because of the way they spoke and the way they acted around you or whatever, you get I mean, I don't know about other people, but I get fucking vibes from people. And the dude, I just didn't like the dude. I met people that similar to him that gave me the bad vibes, but this guy alone, yeah, it's probably how do I put it? It's probably the scariest dude I've ever met in my life. He was just giving me the fucking get the fuck out of here vibes. I want to say like your fight, fright, or freeze, or whatever the hell it is, or fight, flight, or freeze goes off. So either you're gonna run away, you're gonna stop in your tracks and just be like, bah, or you're going to be ready to fight. And I remember at the time I felt like I was a little bit of afraid. And I looked at the dude, and he was sitting there trying to talk to me, and I couldn't figure out why I was like slightly scared about the guy or whatever. He looks wise, he didn't look like too much abnormal compared to the normal people that I ever meet around Florida. So, but he was like, I was just talking to your friend here, and I wanted to see if you wanted to come with us. And I'm just like, no, dog, I ain't going nowhere with your ass. Like I said, just bad vibes. And he said something about making it worth my while or whatever, and asked me if I wanted to make a couple $100. And I was like, dog, you need to just stop talking to me, because like I said, it just bothered me. And I turned around, ignored him, and fucking walked towards the front of the door of the store. I opened the store door, I looked back, and I said, John, don't be fucking with that motherfucker, dog. He's creepy as shit. And I walked into the store, got the shit that I needed to get, got me a little fountain drink. I came out, the little blue station wagon, which was like a Mercury or a Ford. I'm not sure to this day which one it actually was gone. The guy was gone, and John was gone. I kept bugging my family because I hadn't seen him at that point for 5 or 6 days. Like, and even though he was basically kind of a junkie and stuff, which I'm not trying to put him down or whatever, it's just, I hope y'all get what I mean. It was definitely odd, because if he was going somewhere, he'd let us know. Usually if he's on a binge or something like that, he'd be gone for most like 2 to 3 days, and then he'd be back again. Or, he would have called us on the house phone or something. But we hadn't heard anything at all. And I tried to talk to his mom, and I was telling everybody, my mom and stuff, I was like telling them how the things that happened when I last saw him at the store and stuff, and how it just bothered me, the guy bothered me or whatever. And his mom wouldn't call the police, and I tried to call the police or whatever, and I even went down there at one point, and I was told that you have to be an adult to file a missing persons report on somebody. So it wasn't going to work that way either. And as I said, I was almost 16 years old, so that wasn't going to work. I talked to my mom, and I explained it to her, because my mom is very similar to me or whatever, and I told her about all the things and the feelings and all that other stuff that I had about this guy, about how the dude just seemed like he was really not good and acting odd and all this other stuff. And finally, my mom actually went down there and put in a missing persons report for John. And I didn't expect anything from it. Honestly, I figured John would pop up, well in advance before the cops got around to doing anything. But a couple weeks later, the police came over to our house. I'm trying to remember if I was expelled by this time or not, because the same year I was expelled from high school, but I got back in the next following year, so it was no big deal. But for fighting, and yes, I was still home when I didn't have school or anything like that to worry about, and the cops were in like, I'm going to say not an unmarked car, but more like a detective's car. I didn't even know they're cops, to be honest with you. But once you get out of the car, you kind of figured cops are cops. So they asked my mom if she could to please have me get ready, and that they need me to come down and talk to them at the sheriff's department or whatever, because of the missing persons report. Because they first came to talk to her, but when they got there and she told them, she basically told them the last one to see him at the store was Bobby. And yes, that is my middle name. So, ha ha ha. And yeah, so I think it was the following day or whatever, because if we didn't go that day, it was already late in the afternoon by that point. I got dressed up nicely or whatever, because, you know how moms are. And my parents, my stepdad and my mom took me down to the sheriff's department. And the two detectives were just so nice and seemingly good guy, buddy kind of people who would not really see played off being like that. But they were able to convince my parents that it would be okay for them to question me about what happened that day, with no lawyer and no parent, even though they were there. Because my family just automatically believed what I said, because, I wasn't going to hurt John or whatever like that. I cared about him. He was like one of my favorite relatives. So they just assumed, no, it should be fine. They just took it as, like, everybody still assumed he was going to be back, And this was, like I said, 96, and this area in the 90s was very, very, very violent, very bad, a lot of fucked up things were going on. And they still go on, but to a lot less caliber, but at the same time, they definitely still go on. People still getting murdered, all that shit. The last time somebody I knew here that got murdered was not even 13 months ago. Yeah. When Emily and her mom were both murdered by those two fuckers. But at the time, it's not like the cops are going to tell you, for one, nobody's telling you, hey, don't talk to the police. Don't ever talk to the police. So you're assuming that everything's going to be fine, because you're there just to give them information and stuff to help them figure out where the hell your cousin went. So I started noticing something really quickly right away. I wasn't going to say it's like something like a good cop, bad cop, but yeah, it was definitely one cop leading the conversation while the other cop was doing it. It's hard to explain. And it was supposed to, I seemed to be obviously confusing, or at least they were trying to confuse you. Like, one would be basically in a way distracting you and trying to get your answers at the same time as the other one was playing background stuff, making mentions and questions here and there to try to sneak something in on you. And when that didn't work, it very quickly turned into how do I put it? They would ask multiple questions in a row. Now, I have learned since when I was in psychology and shit, when I went to college, that this is a good way, because the brain will look at a set of questions, and the human brain will try to jump right out and answer the ones it knows right away first. The less time it takes to process, the more it wants to come out and just say something. And I stopped and I thought about it in my own head. I was like, well, they're asking me 4 to 5 questions at a point. If I answer really quickly the ones I know right off the bat without having to think, if I'm not paying attention, it might sound like I'm saying an answer for one question that's in fact for another question. And it told me right off the bat that something wasn't right with the cops, and that I need to be careful around them as well. So they repeated I think at the time it was 4 questions. And as soon as they finished, I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. I said, for your first question, that, your answer is this. For the second question, I proceeded to do that through the entire interview, which did last almost 8 hours the first day or whatever. And yeah, there was like 4 interviews total that I had to do. 2 around then my story was proven true by the surveillance video at the Circle K, which had no audio, but basically they corroborated everything that I'm saying now. But then I wasn't talked to for like 11 years. Yeah, 11 years basically. Or at least almost 11 years. And then I was brought back in, and that's when the shit got real. But, give me a second, I'll get into that. And so they asked me, I told them exactly what happened. I told them about the guy, what he looked like and stuff like that. I said, dude, he looked like a fucking creeper. He was like tall as shit, taller than me, and I'm like 6'1". But he had a couple of inches on me at least, height-wise. I gave him I said he's wearing some Coke bottle glasses that are thick as hell. He's, if I remember right, he's kind of balding, all kinds of other shit. And I said he was in this old station wagon, which would have been from like the early 80s. Or the late 70s, I think. No, I'm pretty sure it's early 80s. Either Ford or Mercury, like escort station wagon type thing with the baby blue color to it. And that was the first point that they started acting a little bit weird because the car, like they had heard this car and the way it looked before. I don't and still don't watch the news. And apparently at this time around my county, there was, how do I put this? I'm not saying it at the same time, but we had 2 serial killers running around. Although I didn't watch TV, so it really, didn't mean much to me because, we had they kept finding bodies out in wooded areas of like well, actually they didn't know who the bodies were, so yeah, they had no idea who these bodies were, and they were finding multiple bodies at a time. So when you found one, you're finding like 2, 3, 4 of them. You know what I mean? So, but the bodies, since in Florida the decomposition level goes through really, really quickly. So, if it's a body, it could be out there for a matter of like 2 weeks, and by then it's bones. Not even joking; it's already all bones. So, and this is what certain serial killers do or whatever, and there's multiple reasons why or whatnot, but they call it like nesting. They'll put these bodies in places where they're comfortable with having them, and they'll cluster them, around each other or whatnot. And it's also a way for them to return to the scene and relive their crimes, supposedly. And which I don't know if I'm going to get too much into what he did to the victims or whatever. I probably should, but it's pretty booked up. But yeah. So yeah, I get brought back in 11 years later. Mind you, by then, we've already caught and convicted the supposed serial killer. But at the same time, I've been told many times before that it's probably him that killed my cousin. If he's in fact dead, it's probably that guy's fault because he targeted the less fortunate, kind of homeless, drunkies, males. He was gay. He was a gay nurse serial killer, but he's not the type that normally you would see when it comes to nurses or doctors being serial killers. Usually they target their patients and stuff. This one was different. He went out hunting like BTK, but he, rather than being a killer like a nurse would, an angel of death or angel of mercy, whatever the hell they call them. And yeah, that's basically what the cops told us for the longest time. They were just like, if he's dead, Daniel Conahan did it. And we just like, how do you know? You're just, not going to investigate anyone, bother? They're like, we seem to have enough because a couple of months later, after he was arrested in the same year of 96 into 97, Daniel and Conahan went on trial for. See, they got lucky at one point. They found, I think it was 3 bodies in the wooded area, and the first 2 were damn near all bones by that point. So once again, that wasn't helping him. But then they found a body that seemed to be only had been out there for like 3 days. You could tell who it was, what they looked like. You could tell what injuries they suffered. You could really tell they were naked. There was evidence found in their pubic hairs and stuff like that of a metallic paint substance that seemed to be car paint, which really was basically the smoking gun that kind of fucked them in the end. Well, there was a couple of them. I think his name was Gerald Washington or something like that. And they went and talked to Gerald Washington's mom, and she told them that he was gay, and he was supposed to go meet his new friend, Dan, that was somehow going to help him make some money. And then they got a hold of Gerald's friends, and Gerald Montgomery, that's what his name was. And they told him that he had a friend named Dan that drove a little light blue station wagon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. At this same exact point, a man by the name of, there was 2 men that escaped this serial killer. I can't remember the one's name, but the other one was named Stanley Burden. FYI, just to get ahead of the game, Stanley Burden was later was a convicted pedophile. So, I mean, a witness is a witness. I guess you take what you can get. He was out there in a similar situation one night. He got picked up at a store, I think near I-75, about a couple of exits down from, well, I won't say that just yet, but, and he was asked to make some fake S&M photos where it would look like he was nude and tied to a tree, but he wouldn't really be tied to the tree, of course. Just look like he was really tied to the tree. Well, we would obviously find out that was bullshit too, because when he fake tied you to the tree, apparently he really tied you to the tree. Well, at some point, Daniel Conahan Jr. gets stuck in a ditch, and he's trying to get his car out. And Stanley's in the car with him, and Stanley tries to get out to help them. Daniel and the other guy pushed the car out of the ditch. And this is on a road called Armida, where the dog pound is, by the way. Stanley had no idea why they were there, but he just figured that's where he wanted to make the pictures at. When he tried to get out, Daniel Conahan told him, "No, stay in the car. Somebody needs to steer, yada, yada, yada." And the tow truck's on the way. So as Stanley's sitting there in the car holding onto the steering wheel, he looks over into the back and he sees would guess you would call it a kill kit with a knife, rope, some like tape, duct tape or electrical tape or whatever. All these different camera, all this other crap. Um, and it just freaked him out so badly. So once the car got free from the ditch, he says at least, he stole Daniel Conahan's car and hauled ass with it. Now, Daniel Conahan reported the car stolen immediately, and the cops were able to find and arrest Stanley Burden for the grand theft auto of Conahan's parents' car that he was using. And it was at the point where Burden told them, "Hey, he was trying to take me out to this wooded area and murder me and this, that, and the other." But, of course, when you're a criminal, nobody tends to listen to you. You know what I mean? And so we got put away for a while, and nobody investigated that tip or anything like that. But apparently the cops were paying enough of attention because it matched enough red flags for them to process, because they were looking for somebody that killed Gerald Montgomery. Montgomery had a friend named Dan, light blue station wagon. Sure enough, Daniel Conahan was ticking all these boxes. The car, the color of the car, the way he looked, his name, all that was just basically damn near the same. So the Lee County Sheriff's Department began following around Daniel Conahan, and he'd been sending undercovers out to try to solicit him into conning them into trying to do like 6 things or whatever. And I think there was one undercover cop that said they were freaked out because they got into a situation where they were pretty isolated with Conahan, and he was trying to get him, to come with him to do these fake photographs and shit. And the cop said later on he was terrified. No, it's really, I would be too, because you never know, like, what psychologically disturbed people are going to do in a situation like that. Because, once, FYI, at least one or more of the victims, upon being found, were dismembered. Every one of the victims had their genitals and all that other stuff cut off. Just to give you an idea of what happened here. The other guy, crazy enough, what Conahan seemed to do, or at least his MO was, he pretended to fake tie you to the tree while he was actually really tying you to the tree. You're naked. You're sitting down, so you can't really move anything at that point once you're tied up. And then once you were basically all tied up and all that, he would strangle you until you were dead. Or at least we don't know which came first, because most of the bodies were too decomposed at that point. But either the genital cutting off happened before or after he strangled them. And to this day, we still have no idea why he dismembered any of them. So that was weird too. And they just assumed that all the victims were his because they're all found within feet of each other. No shitting. Literally, like you'd find a body here, and then 12 feet away, there's another body. And you can't ever just find one. I think there was a construction site and all that in Port Charlotte that soon after that, they found 2 more, and then 3 over here. I think the total number was about 23, I think, total. And then there's a separate event that wasn't discovered until much later, which you're about to hear about. So, because of the paint chip that was found on Gerald Washington being the smoking gun, oddly enough, and I thought it was really cool at the time when I heard they could do this, but they found this paint chip that came off of his parents' car, right? And starting with the light blue, they were able to pull off layer by layer by layer by layer. And apparently, this car had been painted like 7 or 8 times. And you could see by chipping off some of the paint, light blue, then red, and then white, and each color all the way down to the stock color that it originally was, right? And sure enough, this entire paint chip, it was damn near better than a fucking fingerprint, or better than ballistics, because this car had the exact brand of paint, the same kind of paint, the same model of paint, and 8 or 9 different colors that were exact matches on top of each other. And I'm like, I don't know, that's better than a fucking fingerprint if you ask me. And sure enough, it was. Other than the paint chip, they went to Conahan's trailer in Port Charlotte, I think it was, no, Punta Gorda, one of the two, where he stayed at with his parents. They did proceed to find Gerald Washington's identification and some other things of his in Daniel Conahan's fucking trailer. So that was like the needle in the haystack. He couldn't really tell everybody, I don't even know that guy. Well, you're lying, because I think he even tried to as well. And the reason I even told you about the whole Stanley Burton thing, other than the fact that he got away, oddly enough, that road, I can't remember exactly what it's called. It's like Armida or some shit where the dog pounds on. Well, in 2007, more things occurred involving the same case, and Daniel Conahan. And by 2007, mind you, he was already well convicted and all this other shit. So, well, as I said, he was convicted in early 1997 by my uncle, of all people, Judge Blackwell. And we stopped hearing about him. I mean, it is what it is. They have no reason to talk about him anymore. He was in prison. Oddly enough, Ruckus, although he didn't meet him, he said either he was there, he was just not there, working there at the right time, he said, because he worked death row at Rayford, which Rayford is a town where basically one of those towns is the only big thing. It's like a college town, but instead of a college, it's a fucking prison. Yeah, that's the kind of place it was. And this also was the same place that Ruckus fucking worked at. And Ruckus worked death row, and if I remember right. And Daniel Conahan was on death row. So, of course, upon hearing where Ruckus used to work, the first question I asked was, hey, did you ever meet fucking Conahan? And when I said Conahan, he said, yeah, I'm pretty sure he asked me if it was the Hog Trail Killer, which is the how serial killers are all given these nicknames and shit. And sure enough, that was Daniel Owen Conahan's Jr.'s nickname, the Hog Trail Killer. And you would think that the story's done by this point, but it's not. At this point in time, they only had enough evidence to convict him for one murder. He was sentenced to death unanimously in a matter of, I think the jury took 23 minutes before they returned with their verdict or some shit. It was very, very fast. Yeah, trust me, there was no doubt. So, Shoot Ahead in the Future. Remember, that was like 97. Early 97. March 2007. I get a call on the phone. I've seen something on the news, but I'm not exactly sure why or how it pertains to what the hell they're calling me about. And once again, it's the same officers or detectives. And they asked me if I could come and talk to them again. I'm no longer 15 years old at this point. I'm like 25 or 26. So, yeah, I'm a little fucking asshole at that point. But because I just want to, find my cousin, I have no problem in doing so. On the news, we had heard this crazy thing where a land surveyor off of Martin Luther King Boulevard on a road where the dog pound was, had found a skull. And she called in the sheriff's department, who then proceeded to shut everything down in that area. And it became a massive crime scene. And about an area about 2 football fields, I think, or between a football field and 2 football fields, they found 8 skeletons. They couldn't tell when the skeletons, how long had they been there, how they died. They couldn't tell none of that shit. At first, the theory was that there had been some weird, I think it was Alabama or Georgia, and a local funeral home here in both, and a funeral home in Georgia or whatever, or Alabama, I can't remember which, that had been gotten into some trouble because I guess their ovens broke and this and that, and they couldn't cremate their the loved ones of the people that were paying to have their people cremated. So they were caught like stuffing bodies in storage units and all kinds of other stuff. So at first it was believed that these 8 here were like somehow connected to the funeral home things. And but it didn't check out at all, because even though these victims were already dead and stuff like that, they would have been coming from a funeral. They'd been dressed in some sort of clothes or whatever. And there was no clothing, no evidence, none of that stuff around there, just like nothing. So whoever or whatever these people were, they were naked upon being put there, basically. At first, I thought they had been buried, but since we get a lot of hurricanes and shit like that, and tornadoes and stuff like that here, it's like the hurricanes and tornadoes basically move around the dirt and stuff on the top layers of the ground. And at first, they thought they were buried in shallow graves, is what they said, but now they're just not sure if it wasn't just the weather itself that pushed sand and stuff on top of them over the years and years and years. Because remember, this is 2007. 2007, March 2007. And the last known victim of Daniel Owen Conahan, which you're about to find out, was John, my cousin John. Because it was not even 2 months later or whatever when he was caught and taken down by police for the murder of Gerald Montgomery. Conahan at this point is saying the same thing that he's saying now, that he said in the first place, that he never killed anybody, and he didn't do this, and he didn't do that. They're wrong. And what was it? They chalked up the total of 13 or 14 murders, and basically just told everybody, yeah, he did it. But we got a conviction in the only case that we actually could get a conviction for it. Now, back in the 90s and the 80s and all this other stuff, there was a large amount of this whole county that was still woods and shit. It's a very, this is basically a small county, like almost like Carroll County or something like that, that blew up massively out of nowhere. Because I remember when I was born here, there was only probably like, I don't know, 10, 15,000 people that lived in this entire county, maybe 20. By the time I was 15, 16 years old, when all this happened, we were just zoning in or zooming in on like 100,000 in the county. And then soon after that, it just all went ballistic. And the amount of people just skyrocketed. Now there's probably about 50 million, at least 20 to 50 million in this county now. Yeah. So by the time these new victims are found in 2007, everybody forgot about fucking the hog trail killer. I mean, because most of the people at this point weren't from here. To this day, if I walk around and I'm like randomly ask people that have been here for like 10 plus years, I'm like, hey, did you know that we had serial killers here before? And they're like, what? No, we didn't. I'm like, dude, yeah, we had serial killers here in this place. And nobody ever believes me when I tell them. I'm like, no, man, there was I'm trying to think, three at least serial killers that we know of. Technically, if you want to somehow think that Wade Wilson maybe killed before that night, there technically would be four. There's some pretty, actually knowing that pedophile also in Cape Coral makes five. And then the Lord's Chaos guy almost made it six. And then Samuel Little killed the victim here, so he'd be seven. So, yeah, I mean, as soon as you start researching the cases and all that other stuff, you'll learn that, just this little county, which when I was born, it had like 10,000, 15,000 people here, has had almost damn near a dozen serial killers that have either come on through, they killed while they were here, or they just straight up lived here, and this is where they killed. In Naples, a good 2/3 of Naples, Florida, is also considered Lee County, which is where I live at the moment, at least. And I'm sure there's probably a few serial killers out of Naples I'm forgetting too, but they had the cop that the two guys are still missing, and fucking Medea and shit. Tyler Perry came down here and offered $200,000 for information on, and yeah, they're still missing. He's considered a serial killer, but he's on the loose. He hauled ass to Utah. Then there's Daniel Owen Conahan, the Hog Trail Killer. There's Popeye the Killer, which is Paul Klein, who went to school with my stepdad and Deion Sanders and Mike Greenwell, because they were all in the same year, which is 1981, and the school was Norfolk Myers High School, where I went myself. Deion Sanders, of course, if you don't know who Deion Sanders is, what the hell's wrong with you? You pay more attention to sports, I guess. Mike Greenwell ended up becoming I'm going to say like almost all Hall of Fame baseball player himself. My stepdad ain't shit, but whatever. And then Paul Klein was a schizophrenic, having deformed fucking dude that got bullied a lot, either for schizophrenia or they called him Popeye because his arms, when Popeye eats the spinach and shit, and it's like it goes through his body and his muscles starting around the shoulder area start getting massive and stuff, and it's like goes through and then comes back through then, and etc. Well, how do I put this? The part of your arm that's right attached to your shoulder is smaller on this guy than the part that's below the elbow. I forget what they're called or whatever, but his were much bigger than the rest of his arm. Below the elbow was 2 times the size of his arm that was above the elbow, if you catch my drift. So that's why everybody called him Popeye, I guess. And he, like maybe other people I know with schizophrenia, refuses to take his medication. And upon not taking his medicine, mind you, we used to see this guy all the time because he worked at the Norfolk Myers Walmart. And my stepdad would always stop to say hi to him and stuff whenever we went there. So, yeah, we've met this guy a whole bunch of times and all that. We noticed the arms and all that kinds of other stuff. It was really weird, but we didn't think too much of it. Before he got arrested, about a month before, maybe 2 months before, they found an old homeless guy that used to sit outside of Walmart in Fort Myers and panhandle, I guess, all the time, asking for money and shit. And they found him in a canal behind Walmart, and he had been stabbed like 50 or 60 times or some shit. Severe overkill. It was later found out that Paul was supposed to be at work that day, that the old man was found murdered or whatever, and he in fact had called off. So yeah, pretty suspicious. They basically chucked that one up to him too. Figured the two got into an argument or something, and it just blew up or something. And Paul Klein killed his adopted parents and their friend and his best friend at a different time. So 3 different kill points at 3 different times. I never had any problems with Paul Klein because I was like a little kid at that point, so I never had to worry about it. Yeah. What was it? After I got stabbed by my ex-wife and stuff, I was just looking for a job or whatever. And a friend I went to high school with, Muhammad, let me be the manager or whatever at his little rinky-dink store, which is still the store that I can throw a golf ball from my house that I'm at right now, and it'll hit the store. That's how close it is. It's called the Back Bay Market or whatever. It's a well-known fucking store around here. People have been going to like fucking 80-something years probably. I think at one point it was a nightclub too. And so I'm working there, and really, I had been installed the security cameras, new point of sale system, all this other crap. And Ali, I mean, shit, dude was like fucking liked working all the time. I mean, I wouldn't work if I didn't need money. I'm just saying. You would not see me fucking there, but Ali loved to fucking work. And Ali was Muslim, and he came from, I'm trying to remember, I think it was Pakistan. Yeah, Pakistan. Ali came from Pakistan. He went to Newport Myers High School same year as me and graduated the same year as me as 2000. And that's how I met him in the first place. And he had just found out that his parents, because he's Muslim, had met the girl that they think that he should marry. At this time, we're probably like almost 30. I guess he's seen what she looks like, all this other stuff, and he's telling me, dude, he's about to take a vacation about a month or so because he's going to go meet his new wife and get married. Like I said, I don't agree with how they do things, but hyped up about it pretty much, and I was happy for him, I guess. Yeah. And this store, the Back Bay Market or whatever, it was like a restaurant / convenience store. I'm not going to say gas station because it doesn't have gas pumps and it never has. It was always open 24 hours a day. When crime got really bad, we would just keep the door locked and we would operate and sell things through the fucking window. And that would all be to your discretion. You could literally just leave the door unlocked if you felt like doing it that night. And it's like Ali was not afraid of anything, but I was usually the one that worked late nights because I had to make schedules and all that other crap and keep and check the monies and all this other shit to make sure everything was right. And he came in one night, and it was the same night he was telling me he was getting ready to go take a flight to Pakistan or whatever to go meet this lady. And I wasn't the only one working at the time. We had this little guy that was stuck in the cooler. It's like a Spanish kid that wasn't illegal and stuff. It's kind of like one of those things that people do to help others make money and stuff. So it was underage and everything else, and he'd come up there and we'd pay him to fucking stock the cooler. It wasn't my idea, but the kid appreciated it. And I guess Ali was feeling fucking anxious or whatever and all this other stuff because he kept talking about meeting this girl who he's supposed to marry and all that. And this has happened before, so I'm looking at this point I had worked this store up and on like fucking for 7 or 8 years. He told me that he was bored, he couldn't get to sleep, and at this point it's already like almost 1 a.m. So within an hour, no more beer could be sold, and that's the kind of place that once you can't sell beer anymore, it just dies. Oddly enough, he tells me that I'm good to go to just go ahead and get my shit or whatever and go on home. Mind you, I lived walking distance where I am now from the Back Bay. So when he's saying going home, he's literally just like walk across the street, basically, to your house. I'm like, oh, okay. So sure enough, I packed up my shit. You ain't got to tell me twice. I'm a lazy bitch, okay? So I packed my shit up and put my laptop and all this other shit away because that's what we did most of the time. We'd be playing on YouTube and shit, because there was nothing else to do if there was no customers. Um, I live so close to this place. I don't ever drive there. You could walk there in a matter of like a minute and a half, not even. You can literally see it from my house. If I walk out to the driveway and just look over to, in that direction, you'll see it right away. Yeah, I went home, probably smoked some weed, chilled up for a little bit, and then I went to sleep. No problem. Didn't think nothing of it. The next day, my door is being banged on loud as fuck. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I opened the door up, and it's the morning lady that works down at the Back Bay. Her name is Claudia. And she basically is a service representative for the morning and stuff like that. She's crying and she's upset and all that. And she's saying, Charles, something. I couldn't understand because she was speaking Spanglish because she was upset. And she just pointed to Back Bay and she said, Ali. And I'm like, what? By the way, yes, his name, his Muslim name was in fact Muhammad Ali. Yeah, I know it's weird, but apparently there's a lot of Muslim people with the name Muhammad Ali. It's just a popular name. So I haul ass. I didn't even put my shoes on or anything like that. I think wearing only like a tank top or whatever, and like just regular shorts. And I'm hauling ass up there, and very quickly you start to get close to the Back Bay, and right away I noticed something different. For one, it's like I could look around, the sun's already decently up, so it's probably like 8, 9 something in the morning, and there's no cars at Back Bay, which is weird, like none on either side or in front. And yeah, it was just odd. There's always somebody fucking at Back Bay, whether it be Ali's car, Claudia's car, my car, or whatever. Because like I said, it was just fucking odd. Customers' cars. I get a little bit closer, and that's when I start seeing this little yellow tape-like junk going all around the parking lot at the front of the building, and that would be like the crime scene tape. I guess Claudia grabbed some candles from inside because Hispanic people, they grab those saints candles whenever someone dies or whatever, and then she had like 4 or 5 sitting out there laid up and going, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And the cops told me they were like, well, apparently the night before that, after I left, at about 3:30 in the morning, I think it was, or almost 3 o'clock in the morning it was, that 2 guys had come into the store wearing masks. One was wearing a ghost, like maybe ghost face kind of like mask, and the other one was similar to that. Not the exact ghost face mask, but one similarly like it. And the other one was wearing a Spider-Man mask. And they believe one of the guys was black and the other one was dark-skinned Hispanic. I've seen the footage. It's actually on the Crime Stoppers and all that, because this crime is also still unsolved to this day. I watched the footage because I installed the cameras, so I was able to pull them up on the thing, and that's why they needed my help, because they couldn't access the security cameras, because I set them up pretty well. And I gave them the video, and I watched it myself, and it was pretty fucked up, because you see the guys come in, they're already wearing masks. I'm not sure. They both seem to have some sort of weapon, but only one of them seemed to have a gun. And how do I put it? When the struggle occurred in the video, that's how Ali got shot. Um, it's like Ali tried to take the gun away from the guy, but he couldn't get the gun off the way. Gun, he couldn't take the gun. He used both hands against the killer's one hand, and he could not get the gun. And it's been believed since then that the guy had actually taped his own hand to the rifle, just in case somebody tried to grab it off of him, he would not lose it. Um, it's also where I figured out to start dealing with cops and bad guys and people pointing guns at me the same way. And that's to slowly announce things before I do them or whatever, and then proceed to do them very slowly so you don't get shot. Because as I told him to fill up the bag with money and stuff, he threw all the money from the register in there, and then he remembered he had the shopping bag underneath with all the deposit money in it, which was been like a few thousands of dollars. And when he reached down to get that without saying anything, the guy thought he was reaching for a gun or something like that. That's when he shot him, and then Ali tried to take the gun from him and was not able to. I do believe they found the murder weapon. It just had adhesive or whatever on it. That's how they also figured he would use tape to keep it in his hand. But yeah, if Ali had announced, hey, there's a bag of money down there, I need to grab it for you. Please don't shoot me. He'd probably still be alive. I don't know if I consider that myself one of the times I almost got murdered or whatever, but we never know what's going to happen, when we're in a situation. And technically, I was the one that was supposed to be there that night, not Ali. So it would definitely mean that I would have been the one that got robbed. And I've been robbed at gunpoint like multiple times, especially working at gas stations at night shift. And I don't know. I always told Ali that he needed to have a gun and all this other shit around there, but he just never listened. And it sucks because to this day, they've never figured out who killed Ali. And this was, oh shit, I think it was like 2011. And I was hoping to have the laptop pulled out and everything else because I have the surveillance footage from the Circle K where you could see the actual Daniel Conahan and that blue fucking car in the video, and me having a little shit and everything else. And I definitely have the video from the night that Ali was murdered. Because as I said, I was the one that set up all the cameras and shit, so there's no way of getting around that. And it sucked. It's horrible because it was like an hour and like 15 minutes or so after I left. And I was just on. I didn't even think anything was going on. I would have lived the second time because I handle situations a little bit differently. Ali always assumed that nobody in the neighborhood, since he always did a lot of things to help people and shit like that, would ever do any harm to him because they loved him. That is true. Everybody fucking loved Ali. But the problem was when people have addiction problems and everything else, you'd have no idea what level they're capable of getting to get what they need. Sadly, they didn't get the bag full of money. They did not get the second bag full of money that Ali got shot trying to reach for. The only thing the two killers got out of robbing the Back Bay that night and killing Ali was the second robber at this point. There was a quarter pushing machine about 8 feet from the register. And as all this is going on between Ali and the first robber with the Spider-Man mask, the second robber breaks the corn pusher machine and takes what I assume to be like $7 or $8 worth of quarters. And sadly, that's all they got. So Ali died for fucking less than $10. And there's a lot more stuff involving murder and everything else that I should probably get into. I'm just not feeling it at the moment in time. I'll probably do a little thing tomorrow night or whatever, and do the 4 thing tomorrow too, or some shit. I'll figure it out. But yeah, count your blessings. because sometimes you could just be that close to death and not even know it. And to this day, I don't even know why I was the one that survived in each occasion and stuff, because the people that, hell, at least in Ali's case, he would have been a much better person to have still alive around this neighborhood, at least, than myself. He did a lot of good things for this community. People love that fucker. He always had all these beating things for the homeless and shit and all this other stuff. And, the place has really turned to shit since then. So, yeah, at least just for this neighborhood alone, Ali would have been a better choice of having people still alive than damn near myself. It's kind of one of those questions I ask myself all the time is when I see or know somebody that's been killed or dead or murdered or whatever. I'm just like, well, why the fuck am I still here? Seriously, I got nothing. I ain't here for shit. But yeah, I gotta get back to packing more shit up because plus I gotta stream my new guitar and all this other shit. And yeah, it's not like anybody's here anyway, so it is what it is. Awesome. Assalamu alaikum, my crackers. Have a good night.